Hey, welcome back to Essential Outdoors. This week we're talking about Texas rig do's and don'ts. Stay tuned till the end and we'll give you 2 money-saving tips that will help you out. Welcome back, everyone. Texas rigs. It seems like bass never get tired of it. It's an awesome rig. But if you do it wrong, it could waste a lot of baits. It affects the action of the bait. And when you set the hook, the baits wear out quicker. Right? One of the mistakes people make is when you take your hook, you'll put it down the center and they'll start threading it onto the shaft of the bait. And then they'll poke out like somewheres around the egg sac. Now this is a straight shank flipping hook. And then they'll thread that all the way up there. And they'll bring that little keeper out the side. So now you're all the way down here. All of this is going to be wasted after your first strike. So when you text pose this, text posing is just bringing the hook out the other side and then just skin hooking it so it's weedless. Now you just lost half of that bait and the action of it. Just got a little bit of action here. So when the fish strikes and the line just cuts right up and off of the bait. So now you just lost that much of the bait, almost half. So you can bite that off and now you have 3-inch bait. That we started out with a 6-inch bait. So you lose a lot that way. Proper hook placement for a Texas rig is we're gonna bring the hook down through the center. All right. A lot of times you can see where the injection molding of the plastic bait is. There's a dimple in there. That's where you're going to put your hook in the center. That dimple is from what's called the sprue when they inject the plastisol in. So we're going to take it up to this first bend and then come out of the bait. We're going to pull it down, and as we pull it down, we're going to turn it to face the hook back. And now our keeper is right here at the end. And we'll just take our bait, put it through, and then we can do our text pose. And our bait is pretty straight. We're straight on the hook. We have the action of these on the crawl. If it was on here, we would have had the complete action. And I'm sorry, I don't have another one here. This one's tore up. But there would have been a lot of action in that Senko. That is how you properly rig a Texas rig. So there's 3 different hooks that I use. This is a straight shank hook, which is for flipping. This is a 4/0. And on this particular style hook, I would tie a snell knot on it. So that is a straight shank hook. We have a round bend hook. And your typical EWG, extra wide gap. So these are the three type that I use. My go-to is the round bend. And the round bend works really good. Unless you get into like thicker baits, like this is a 6-inch Senko, and it's pretty fat. So when you come through that bait, there's not much hook that's gonna stick through. And this is a 2/0 round bend. So when you bring it through, there's a little bit coming out. And a text pose is really nice, but you can see the gap here. There's a little bit there, so when the fish bites, there's not a lot of gap to catch them in the roof of the mouth with. So for this fat of a bait, a round bend hook is not your best bet. Your best bet here would be the EWG. So you got to match your hook to your bait. So we go up to the first bend, come out the side, and we'll go down. Turn it when we come out, and when we go to text pose it, we come out, we do that. So now you can see with the EWG how deep that gap is in there. So when the fish strikes and it pokes through, you have so much more hook that will land in the roof of his mouth than on the straight shank for a thick bait like this. On this bait here, this is a rage crawl. The round bend works great. It's an awesome hook for this particular bait. Plenty of hook that comes out that will grab and catch that fish because it's not so massive in the girth of the body. Lays really nice, smooth. All right, so how do we rig it? So when we rig a Texas rig, for me, and this is how I do it, and you can do it however you feel comfortable, or if you have a different way of doing it, that's awesome. Keep doing it that way. But the way I set up my rigs is what I'll do. I take my line. I'm going to add a bobber stopper at the top. So you have these little bobber stoppers, these little black things. So there's a little wire loop, you stick it through there and you slide that on. Now you have the bobber stopper on there. So what I do is I'll put one at the top and I'll use the lightest weight I can. This particular one is a 1/2 ounce tungsten weight. And it's just there for size for the purpose of the video. But I'll slide that on and that will go up to my bobber stop. Then underneath of that, I will add one more bobber stop. And the reason is I can take my Texas rig and make it into another type of rig by doing this. And it will be called a Mojo rig, and it's kind of a quasi Carolina rig, but I just make it versatile, and that's how I do it. Now, once that is on, I'll tie my hook on. Now, either I'll tie a Palomar knot, a San Diego jam knot, or an improved cinch knot. And I'll link some of these knots for you in the description, and in the cards you'll see. So on this one, I'm going to tie a Palomar knot. Palomar knot's pretty quick, but my go-to knot really is the San Diego jam knot. That, I don't know, for some reason that thing has never failed for me. Wet your knot always before you slide it down. Cut your tag end off. And now you have your rig set up. But as I was saying about the San Diego jam knot, it's a 95% strength knot. It's fantastic. I have never had the knot fail on me. My line has broken, but my knot has not. It's never slipped out. It's a phenomenal knot. And it was the first knot I learned when I was a kid. That was the first knot my father taught me. And I think that's why I use it so much. But now that we're set up, we have our weight with our bobber stoppers, and we have our hook tied on. So we are going to rig our bait on there, our plastic. We'll bring it out to that bend that holds it there. Bring it through. Text pose it, skin hook it, whatever you want to call it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull our weight right down to it. And if we want, we can peg it with the top bobber stopper, and that will not slide anywhere. If you want to have your excuse me, if you want to have your weights fall away from your bait, just take your bobber stopper and move it out. You can go as far out as you want. And now, hey, it's all over the place. Your bait moves all over. Now so the reason I added that second bobber stopper is I can take that and slide that all the way down, and I'll make a mojo rig. So that gives me, I have almost 2 foot of my line here under my weight. So the weight would be down here and this would be floating out here. And it's kind of a quasi Carolina rig, like I said, and it's very adaptable. So if you get into rocks or something like that, you can take your Texas rig and change it into the mojo rig and fish it in the rocks. It's very versatile if you do it that way. And one of the last things, there's 2 items that I wanted to show you, 2 tricks that will save you money on your baits. There's 2 different ways. One way, I already recorded it, but it's a little longer. I will add it in at the end. So the first way that we can save our baits, a lot of times when a fish hits the bait on a Texas rig, the bait slides down the hook or slides up the line, one or the other, and it ruins the bait quicker. So a lot of times what I'll do is I will take, this is a number 10 barrel swivel, very small. I use these for drop shots between my main line and my leader. So I will tie that, or put that on, not tie it, but I'll just put it on so it's free floating on the line for my Texas rig. Then I will tie my hook on. This time I'll do an improved cinch knot. Cut our tag off. Now, what we'll do is we will take our bait, we'll go into the bend and come out like normal. And what we'll do is, before we get all settled up and all that fun stuff, we're going to take the other part of the swivel that's open and put the hook through that and slide it up. So as we bring our hook out and we text pose it, do our skin hook, text pose it. So now we have underneath, we have the swivel. So when the fish hits it, that swivel is held by the line and down at that bend, and it will not allow your bait past that. So it will never slide down the hook. So your baits will last a lot longer, save you a ton of money that way. The last money-saving idea is taking your hooks and we tie a bait keeper onto it. Kind of like tying a jig head. And I will add a clip after this and you'll see how I tie them on. I do it during the winter. Boredom sets in, watching TV, whatever the case may be, and I'll sit there and I'll tie them on there. So stay tuned for that. Practice your Texas rig. It's awesome. I hope you use these tips. It makes things very versatile and it will save you money. Okay, to tie a keeper onto a bare hook, we have a 5/0 EWG, and we're going to tie our own keeper on there to help keep our baits from riding down, and it will save us money. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a fiber weed guard and we will pull one of the strands off, and we'll take that strand and we're going to bend it exactly in half, and then we're going to pinch where the bend is so we can get some memory in that and it stays in that position. So let's set that aside for a second. We're going to take our bobbin with 210 denier flat wax nylon, and we're going to wrap that onto the shaft right up at the bend here. So we're going to wrap on here and we're going to have our keeper just barely outside of where the bend is. So just enough to keep the bait there. We don't need a lot hanging over, just enough to keep it. So we're just going to get that started. We'll wind that back to the bend. Cut our excess there. Now let's flip this over. So we have our nylon, or excuse me, our fiber weed guard. Got that bent. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay it on the back of the shaft of the hook and just bring the loop just out where it's going to catch our bait. So we're going to put a couple securing wraps around it. Not real tight, because we want to make sure that It's laying flat on that shaft. And then we're just going to grab the end of this and we're just going to adjust this. So you're going to be out maybe 1/16 of an inch or so, just enough to catch the plastic as the hook comes through. Doesn't take a lot. So we're going to do some securing wraps here. We're going to bring that back up. All of our wraps are even. And we're going to do a little whip finish using our hands. And we're just going to roll our fingers over. Whoops. Yeah, I'm on fingers. 1. 2, 3, and 4. Wow, my fingers are not working tonight. So we will do one more whip finish on there, just so you can see how it's done neatly. So I'm just going to take the bobbin, lay it across, and just take my fingers and roll them over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then pull it tight. That time my fingers cooperated. So we have that little nub sticking out there. Then we're going to pick up the excess of our fiber guards, fiber weed guard, and just snip those off evenly. Then we're going to take some Loon Hardhead Clear Cement, Jig Cement. You can use this, or you can use Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails Clear Nail Polish. That works awesome. So we're going to just put this on there to protect the threads. They will never unravel this way. Just get rid of our excess. That will just dry in a moment. So I'm going to take that. Now that we have that weed guard on there, you can see it on there, tied on nice and neat. Looks almost factory. So we can take, this is a 6-inch Senko. We're just going to go into the bend and then poke out. Pull this through, and now our weed guard is just now on the other side of the bait. So when we Texas rig this, we can text pose that, and now as this slides, it catches on there and it will not go anywhere. It will save you a lot of baits. You get a lot more use out of your baits and save you a lot more money. Especially with soft baits like this. They're full of salt and they get beat up pretty quick. So just a little extra effort. It's a good thing you can do during the winter as you are watching TV, or boredom sets in, you get cabin fever. You do enough hooks to get you through the season and you're good to go. Enjoy.